us this evening.
Yep.
Where's Mike?
Mike is not with us either. He is off to a work conference, or potentially on his way home from a work conference this evening.
Okay, very good.
So we'll start on screen first. We have Kim Dunsmore, Chris Hood, Michael Gary, myself, Ben Peters, Aaron Carlson, and all the way around to Patrick Knight, and lots of company this evening. Lots of guests. Open forum. Is there anyone here for open forum this evening? Everyone else is on the agenda? All right. The consent agenda. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the meeting minutes? Look over the bills?
Yep.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Alrighty, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That would be a no. Nobody. All right. This evening we have dark sky presentation. We have an EDA HRA discussion, and then one potentially final conversation about our leash law revisions, and then council and staff. I'm going to have one add to that. We're going to have just about a few minutes on the Cook County Emergency Conference coming up at the end of the month. My keyboard couldn't make it this evening, so I got just a quick PowerPoint I'll put up, and maybe we'll pop that in after the dark sky piece. We'll do it that way. Let's make sure. Kim, are you a part of that, I assume? The emergency management conference at the
I
end
go
of the
to it, but I don't have any part in doing any job for it.
But you attend, sure. All right. Well, next up then is Mark Morgan with the Dark Sky Week. Request for a proclamation by the city. Hi, Mark. If you'd introduce yourself, please.
What's that?
If you'd just like to introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Mark Morgan. I live up the trail a little bit by Pincushion. Lived here about 7 years now, and as with many retired people, came up here for many years prior, so know quite a few people in town, although I don't know much. I recognize people, but I don't know everybody's name. So anyway, thanks for having me tonight. I previously talked to Tracy about the proclamation, and she invited me to speak about our group. So I don't know, I had a PowerPoint. I don't know if you...
It's loaded. It's in the meeting.
Let's see here.
Otherwise, do you want me to pop up my screen? We can.
That'd be great.
I mean, I just have it embedded in the meeting.
Yeah,
I don't, would that be enough to?
that'll be fine. Just
Alrighty, we'll do that, Mark, and then you
Okay.
can tell me.
Doesn't matter to me. I've got my slide. I've got the slides here too. So anyway.
All right, so
Perfect,
oops,
you're-
we don't want that's still to come. Is that like big enough to get us through?
I'm sure that's fine.
I could do a little bit bigger, I suppose. All right.
So, Starry Skies North, we're the Cook County chapter. So, next slide just shows. So, the Starry Skies North started in about 2010 in Duluth, and then hence moved to Minneapolis. And that's kind of the regional center for the Starry Skies initiative in Minnesota and surrounding area. And then just last summer, we formed the Cook County chapter, so in which I got involved at this time. Our leader is Carolyn Torkelson. She lives in Hovland, and there's several people that are also on Chickawauk's Starry Skies stuff, and some people that are seasonal that are on our chapter. And then just recently, Grand Portage is starting a chapter as well, so it's kind of spreading out around here. So basically, we're all about protecting the dark skies, and which mainly boils down to light pollution. So anyway, next slide. So our group, we're just sort of getting started. we worked quite closely with Visit Cook County and Nick on last December's Dark Sky Week. And we had a few places where we helped out, had some tables with brochures and information, things like that. Some of the plans that we have in the future, we'd kind of like to partner with Visit Cook County and kind of develop kind of a passport for dark sky viewing locations in the county. There's also some talk about a scale model of the solar system. So possibly start in Grand Marais with the sun, which, and then end at Chickawauk with Neptune, the planet. So that's one idea. We'd like to have Grand Marais become a dark sky community, which, and there's some detail on further slides about that. Visit Cook County certification as or have Cook County certified as a dark sky reserve, which would be one of the first counties in, I think, ever to be certified. We also have tables at various events, North House. We'll have one at the community center in Earth Day. So we'll have a table with brochures and information. And then we'd like to have the city proclaim Dark Sky Week and how important that is to our health, our community, and where we live. So the county has already certified that, and so has, or made the proclamation, and so has the reservation. So a little bit about the passport. Basically, we'd have these areas identified that are viewing areas for to see starry skies or northern lights. Visit Cook County has kind of a map for northern light locations that they publish, and we could incorporate that in there. These are just some possible examples. Next would be the scale model of the solar system. So it kind of works out pretty well. If we put the sun, first I thought about maybe the Compass Rose there by Java Moose, or maybe the parking lot and the Coast Guard station. Mm-hmm. So at this scale, the sun is about 84 feet in diameter. So, paint a big circle or something there. And then at various locations for the planets, have a little sign with some little information, a picture of maybe how big the planet would be at that point. So turns out that it kind of works out that Mercury is about where the dog park is, the new dog park. Venus is pretty close to the water tower that goes up the Gunflint. Earth is close to Pincushion Overlook, and it's only 9 inches in diameter at that scale, so you'd have a 9-inch ball or something. Mars is close to the golf course. Jupiter's about where the South Brule crosses the Gunflint. Saturn is pretty much mid-trail. Uranus is a little bit past that, and then Neptune ends up at Chickawauk. So just an idea that would be kind of fun for people to go around and visit the area. Next would be like our dark sky reserve for Cook County, or dark sky community for Grand Marais. And there's a lot of verbiage there, but it basically boils down to light pollution and kind of minimizing that. Changing some lighting so that all the light goes down versus up in the sky. Maintaining some policies over that, and then monitoring it, basically. So we'll be working towards that, hopefully. So the next few slides are just a little bit about light pollution, what it causes, the impacts. And these are just kind of canned slides, a little bit modifications I've done for our area. So the next one, you can see a little blurb of Minnesota and how bright it is. And then the red circle is Cook County and part of Lake County. And it's interesting that you can see that the little glow of Grand Marais, and then the Tofty, Schroeder area, and then down to Silver Bay, but it's all really dark, to our northwest, which is, the Boundary Waters, and then over further west is the Voyageur National Park. So the two sanctuaries that are already been recognized as dark sky sanctuaries. So Minnesota, or the Boundary Waters, is the darkest area east of the Mississippi. So artificial light at night is really what light pollution is, and inappropriate use of that. So it can cause harm to the health of people, animals. It affects migration, and we get a lot of bird migration coming down Lake Superior in the fall and also in the spring. And so light reflecting up or shining up can really affect their migration habits and things like that. So, next. So this is just 4 pictures of kind of the change in light pollution over, so upper left is the 1950s, the upper right is the mid-70s, 1997 on the lower left, and then 2025 is potentially what it can look like. And it kind of interesting how the Mississippi River almost looks like all the bright stuff to the east of there almost follows the river if you kind of look at it. And there are a few dark areas in the west still. So this is a view of Minneapolis and St. Paul taken from the space station. So all the light you see is really light that's being wasted. It's not, it's projected up into space. It's not shining on the ground where we want it. And so it's pollution. So this is an example of what happened during the 2003, if anybody remembers the blackout in the East Coast there, and how before it was kind of, you get the sky glow, you get the glare of the yard lights and the houses, and then during the powder outage, all of a sudden they could see the stars in the sky. So a dramatic illustration of what we've come to be as normal, I guess. So the rate, of course, and maybe you've heard of this, the Bortle scale is this 9-level scale that people use to rate places. The Boundary Waters, Voyager is close to 1, so up at Chickawauk, you see the most stars, very dark. Although even on SAG, I can see a glow in the northeast from Thunder Bay, just a slight glow on the horizon. Around here, we're usually at a 3 to a 4 around town, up on Pincushion. And then going further to the left, it just gets less and less stars being seen. So only 2% of people on the Earth live in a Zone 1 area. So you can think of where that might be. The outback in Australia, maybe Africa, maybe Siberia, probably very few places in the U.S., Alaska, maybe up on Chickawauk in that area, the end of the Gunflint. So we're really of a unique location here. So there's 2 kinds of light pollution. One is kind of trespass, where light goes where it's not supposed to glow. And then sky glow, which is just kind of the overarching glow of a city or even a small town into the sky. And so you can see there on those houses on the left how the roofs are lit up, and one light is affecting another house, and it just, they're all kind of interfering with each other. I know we've seen that around town. I mean, the hospital used to have those real bright lights. I think they've changed them since. They're a little bit better. But I would have hated living on that corner. It would have been pretty intrusive, I think. So people talk about lights and safety, and there's no doubt that light can, make it safer to walk. However, there's no real research that says that brighter lights means it's safer. And you can see that light there where in the top they got the glare of the light, and you can't see really anything on the right, and you block the glare with your hand, and all of a sudden there's a guy standing there in the gate. So bad lighting can actually be less safe than appropriate lighting. So another problem with lighting, and because we are shining so much of it in areas that we don't need it, is it just wastes a lot of money. All that light going up is money we're spending on that light bulb that's not, lighting our path or making us safe at home. And up to, $3 billion a year of energy costs are just wasted due to inappropriate lighting. That's not just, power in your house or anything, but actual just lighting. So a real savings, if nothing else, that we would want to do. So a lot of the solutions are easy. Best practices, just put lights where you need them. Make them targeted, maybe put shields on them so they shine down on the walkways, even, could even be on a sidewalk at, knee level and just shining where your feet go. Keep them dimmer than than they have to be. Most of them are brighter than they need to be, and maybe most of that is because we're not shining them in the right spot. Maybe put some timers or motion sensors on them so that they turn themselves off when you're not around. And then one item that seems to be a myth or a perception issue is that the blue lights that you see sometimes on cars or in your house, you can buy the blue LEDs. They're just kind of a whitish blue versus the yellow amber colored. So there's actually some health issues with the blue lights that have been proven that disrupt your sleep patterns, can cause some illness, headaches. So if you do switch to an LED light, get one with the yellow color temperature instead of the blues. It's healthier. Our sun is yellow, so we've evolved to live under yellow sun, not light blue light sun. So we don't have that kind of a star. So next slide. So an example of some bad lights and some good lights. So, one that just shines all over, it's glary. You're throwing light where you don't need it, where you don't want it. Putting a shade on it, helps some, but make sure the shade is down and focused, and you can maybe use a dimmer bulb, so you'll be saving energy. It would be not so bright, so you wouldn't have the glare problem and maybe see a little clearer in the dark. And then make it safer for others, and you can maybe start seeing the sky again. So, some things that we can do here, individuals, community, there's some policies, of course, that can go towards that. But, basically turn off the lights. One nice thing about light pollution versus other pollutions is once you turn the light off, the pollution's gone. You don't have to clean it up. You don't have to mitigate it with some other chemicals or, something like that. You don't need respirators to filter it out. So it's gone. It's easy to do, and it can save you money. Change your fixtures if your fixtures are wore out or just need new ones. Warm colored bulbs, motion detectors. Talk to your neighbors so your light isn't shining in their bedroom window, or vice versa. Communities, talk to the people, the store owners, see if they can make some changes. They can save money too. Maybe they don't need lights on. There's a couple of photos I've seen where, the Home Depot parking lot is brightly lit all night long. It's like, really? We're not protecting that empty parking spot for, doesn't make any sense. So, and then policies, some lighting ordinances, state, county. The IDA, International Dark Sky Association, has some examples of that. Other cities have tried it. Some bigger cities have had some success. So just a quick This is kind of an example of one of the handouts that we have to share at some of our tabling things. So just, individual actions, light where you need it, use only as much as you need, direct it down, turn it off when you don't need it, check the right temperature, and then if you want to help us, join our organization. Everybody always looking for volunteers, right? So we'll have lots of these kind of literatures at the Earth Day festival on the 22nd. So stop by our table. So just as an aside here, I just threw this kind of at the end, but I don't know if you've ever seen the Starlink satellites when they first launched, and it's just a big long chain of pearls in the sky. So that's just the start of it. They're only one company, and there could be thousands, tens of thousands more satellites in the sky, and astronomers are very concerned because they take long exposure pictures, and they get a streak in them because a satellite goes by. Well, they're going to get more than one maybe now. So, I can sit on my deck and see 3 or 4 satellites, going by in just a few minutes. So, anyway, just something to think about. And then I think almost done here. So, get involved with us. Come see our table at the Earth Day show up at the community center. We'll have a sign-up sheet if you want to. We're trying to start a newsletter. There's social media involved, of course. Also on April 22nd, we'll just have a table at Voyager to just talk to people. We might have some telescopes there if the sky is clear. The observatory or planetarium in Duluth might bring some down, or the Chickawauk people might bring some down. Our Starry Skies North has just earned or received their 503c nonprofit status, so we're kind of celebrating that too. It's people that want to donate money, now it's a nonprofit and they can claim it, and all sorts of benefits like that. We hope to have a table at the Lutz and 99er, and of course we're already talking to Nick about Dark Skies Week in December. So, and then the last one is just some more places to start. We've got our own website. There's the International Dark Sky Association website. This Paul Bogard, he's a professor in I think it's Hamlin or St. Catherine's in the cities. Has written this book about dark skies and how important it is and to people and places. So I hope you'll consider the proclamation and approve it. And
All right.
thanks for your time. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to.
Does anyone have any questions at all, or no?
great.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
You
you.
don't need to do anything. It looks like you proclaimed.
Yeah, we just need to do
We
that. I'll
approve
sign
your
off. Or no, we don't have to take a vote or anything. So yeah, we'll be all set. We'll sign a proclamation, and very good. We do a little bit under our climate work with Shane, but yeah, there's still a lot more details. So
I'd be curious to see what our
yeah, what we've
situation
what we've
is right now. I don't even know.
done. Yep. I'm gonna quick interject the Cook County.
Oh, let me go back.
Yeah, that's okay. Emergency. Oh, what happened to my? I don't know what it just did. I didn't want that. Oh,
I think you went into presentation mode.
I did, but I wanted it just from
Just
the
escape on your
slideshow.
keyboard.
Yep.
I did, but I had beginning before. It should have gone to a full screen. All right, whatever. I can. Oh, it did. Only on screen. Got it. But it's not going at the top. Anyways, So April 28th and 29th is the Cook County Emergency Services Conference. This is going to go from Friday afternoon at 12:30 until Saturday evening. There are meals provided for 2 dinners and a lunch throughout this. This is an annual conference, and you can read below. I stole this off of the Cook County's website. So this is their annual conference, an opportunity to offer training and information for those who run toward the danger of any given emergency when the rest of us are running away. Which I kind of enjoyed that. Kind of a clever little tagline like that. It is their 31st conference. They had a little break, I believe, during COVID. Jim went in and put this on for many years. So there's exercises, training, lots of things to learn. And the best part about it is it's right here in Cook County. And for many people in the various professions here in the county, oftentimes when you need CE or just extra learning, whatever, you have to go somewhere. And it's pretty neat that all of this is coming to us. And I think it's really apropos because one of the biggest and most important things we offer is help and assistance outside, all around in our county for people. And so the fact that we can have training for all of the various volunteers and paid professionals that provide these services around the county can do it in their own backyard is, I think, a really neat opportunity. And it's open to everyone. It is completely free. So I just captured a few of the okay, so why doesn't my view go? It's like acting weird.
Do your arrow keys work?
No, I had it before. This is sort of weird. All right, well, we'll go back to normal view and see if I can get it to go. So they have things starting at noon on Friday, and they have local speakers, a review of the pandemic. They have a review of last holiday's storm. They're going to have Narcon training. North Shore Health has Stop the Bleed training. They are going to have underwater and rescue training in the harbor. We have 2 helicopters coming up here. North Memorial has a new helicopter they're bringing up, and then Lifelink will be bringing their helicopters up. They have mobile towers for cellular and what that they're going to test out around the county as well. They have several keynote speakers coming up here, along with our Border Patrol and other services as well locally. And it is the annual Armor Radio Refresher Training. There is a lot packed into just 2 days, and I think there's a lot the public would enjoy, like just looking at the helicopters and whatnot, and some showing the water rescues in the harbor, kind of neat, eye-catching. And some other great speakers. There is a talk about psychological first aid as well, which I could think be pretty important for some people when all of a sudden they realize they're in the middle of the woods and things aren't going well for them. I think that could be a really, I'm assuming, a very important component of help. So yeah, the customs, emergency medical services, firefighters, local law enforcement, dispatch, and then the general public. And once again, it's free and everyone is welcome. You can go to the Cook County website and get signed up. It's an Eventbrite is organizing as far as getting yourself signed up. And then the Grand Portage, VFW, North Shore Health, and I'm not sure who else are the ones providing the meals. So that's very nice to have that brought as well for all the participants. So Kim, you said you were going to go, and I don't know who else from the city was planning to attend, but maybe some of our other employees. Are any of you guys?
I didn't even know about it.
Well, now you do.
No, I do.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of cool things to do on that. So there, that's my little pitch. Mike couldn't make it tonight. He was in somewhere, going places, but wanted to do that for him. So there we go. That moves us on believe, unless anyone has any other questions or comments that they want to add about that. We will move on to the EDA HRA, and we have a little presentation. And if you'd both just identify yourselves. I'm assuming both of you are, yeah. Okay.
Counselors, thanks for having us tonight. Steve Serbaugh, President of the EDA.
And Mary Summers, Chair of the HRA.
I hope that you've all received the packet that we sent out and had a chance to review it. I am not going to read the entire packet to you. I'll just give you a few highlights, and then we're hoping to have some discussion and questions from you guys, and would encourage you to just ask whatever questions you might have. The EDA was first created in 1988 by Minnesota statute, and the original purpose of the EDA being created was in order for Superior National to be developed at Lutsen. The statute provides the EDA to act with the ability to act as the Economic Development Authority, the Housing Redevelopment Authority, and the Port Authority. The HRA was created in November of 21 by the Cook County Board for the purpose of addressing the critical need for housing within the community, which we're all very aware of. Today, Jason was hired as the HRA Executive Director in April of 22. In January of 23, Beth Drost, who was the Executive Director for the EDA, resigned in January. Today, Pat Campanaro is the Interim Director, and Drost's resignation gave an opportunity for both boards, the city, the county, and the community to evaluate each organization's and sort of think about the accomplishments and challenges and think about if there was a different way to think about going forward with those two different organizations. I personally got a number of calls from community members that said, hey, I think this is an opportunity to look at whether or not the HRA and the EDA should be combined. And so that started off the discussions, and I know that Mary received some calls about that as well, and others within the community. So what we did was we've been meeting fairly regularly since about January, talking through this. We've been meeting with community members. We've been before the county commissioners at one time, and have worked on a combined budget, which you see here in the packet. We've also had resolutions passed both at the HRA and the EDA. Those resolutions are also in the packet. And just a lot of discussion about what this might look like. We're here today because we think it's a great idea. Both boards think it's a great idea, and we'd love to have any sort of questions that you might have around it. Mary, do you have other? Did I miss things? Do you have other
Good
comments?
job. You know the story.
Yeah.
No, and yeah, please tell us your thoughts or ask questions. We're here to make the best use of your time. If there are things in particular that you want us to consider in moving this forward, we want to hear your concerns or your objections or whatever thoughts you have.
Okay. I guess I am concerned because housing has been a really big issue for us for a long time. And I'm concerned about not having a dedicated entity going after that. That's very concerning to me. I mean, after all the years we've put in, at least in the city here, in planning and zoning, creating rules, trying to make things better and easier for people to create housing. And I don't know. I'm very concerned that we've just started with the HRA, and now we're saying, oh, but wait, we're going to put these things together. I'm a little concerned that we're going to take our eye off the ball and we're not going to have the housing that we might.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, housing is a big concern. We know from the 3 different housing studies that were done in Cook County going back 35 years, housing has been a critical issue for a long time, and it hasn't gotten any better. If anything, it's gotten worse. over the last 35 years. So I think it's very clear to the current board members of the EDA and the HRA that none of us can take our eye off the ball of making sure housing moves forward and we get some projects in the ground and start solving this problem. So it's the number one economic problem in Cook County is housing. There's no question about that. I think there's some advantages of a combined organization for sure. That would give the opportunity for there to be 2 staff members that would work on the combined projects of the EDA and the HRA. Again, housing is the number one economic problem in Cook County. There are the jobs that need to be done associated with it that are very high level that require an executive director, and then there are other jobs that are more project manager of nature. And so having 2 people being able to attack those problems from sort of the 2 different levels would be very useful. There are a lot of times in the past where the EDA director and the HRA director were attending the same meetings, and so there's some efficiencies maybe picked up there. I don't know that efficiencies are the reason that we're doing this. We think that there's just a lot of synergies between the 2 organizations, and there's a lot of people that think it might be time to think about combining them. There's a lot of places around Minnesota where, in fact, most of the places around Minnesota where there are HRAs, they're operated underneath an EDA. So it's not like we're doing anything unusual.
Right.
And I would add,
Yeah.
as you know, I know very well, we're not talking about one person doing the work.
No, right.
There would be 2.
Yeah.
So one way that I've come to think about that, Michael, that question is, right now we're 2 organizations with 2 employees, right? 2 organizations and each have 1. This is still having 2 employees just under 1 organization. So really what changes is the board makeup. There would be 2 professional people. The person that we would look for, the way we're looking at it now, Jason would become the executive director of the merged organization, and the other person that we would be looking to hire would be of the same, well, not the same, because nobody's the same as anybody, but, of the level of professional knowledge and skills and abilities to do the work. So, not another executive director, but like in government, we call that position a project manager or a development director, that kind of a position. So that, and of course, it's going to be a little crazy in the beginning because there's going to be a lot of learning to do for everyone involved. But one thing that, it's hard to say this because it's not about me, but I'm right here and I work with Jason every day, and I will continue to work with Jason every day. And I have that EDA background as well, so it might be a little bit of a, I don't know, ace in his pocket or something, whatever. But that is our intent, that housing stays the top priority. So much so that people have asked us, well, the EDA is going to get lost in all of this. No, nothing's going to get lost. We all know what our priorities are. So, we have all of them. We have currently the housing, the business park, and the golf course are the 3 biggest priorities that we have right now. And childcare is, but that grant's been moved over to the Public Health and Human Services, and not that we're not going to keep paying attention to it. We have all those things, yes, but no new initiatives will begin, regardless if we merge or not. Somebody new is going to come along and have to learn all that EDA stuff anyway. So,
I think, and I'm listening to what you're saying, and I think that's the beauty of the current relationship is that Jason's able to stay on point without the baggage of those other issues, right? And so I understand the umbrella and the 2 people doing the work, but right now we've got the one person that's doing the job he's hired to do and seemingly really well, right? And has a lot of momentum. And are there, in the conversations, were there any other pitfalls, any other like things that came up in these discussions that were like, yeah, this is a problem we haven't worked around yet? Like, well, it's a budget, for example, or did anybody bring up anything else that other than the housing issue? Because I mean, that's the one that's, I think, probably most common.
Right. I can't think of anything. I mean, there are some, future visions and goals, I'm sure, that the EDA has been considering, but again, knowing that, like, that stuff just might have to wait for a minute. Either way, you can't start new projects when you don't have a full-time person in place, right? So,
I think the other thing I'd add is that the two boards that we have right now and the board members that would continue on a combined board are
If
very
they're
active
chosen.
board members. Yeah, if they're chosen.
Yeah.
Are very active board members. They're working, I mean, Mark Shackleton is the treasurer for the EDA, and he is dug right in and spent a ton of time on things. I have spent a ton of time in my short tenure as the president of the EDA working on business park related things and things related to the golf course, and that would continue. And the board members would continue to do that work so that Jason and the organization can stay focused on building housing. So,
and in terms of budget, Ben, both organizations are funded by the levy that is approved by the county. So both organizations currently put together their levy request every year and bring it to the county board for approval. That would continue. We would be able to still access both the EDA and the HRA levy. It won't reduce our ability to fund the organization to the level that we need to fund it to hire the professionals and pay the rent and do the work. Then the project money, the lion's share of the project money comes from other sources. So currently, the county has approved the American Rescue Plan funds for housing. So Jason has, the HRA has $1.2 million that we can direct to infrastructure to whatever we get building this year. IRRB has been very good at funding infrastructure and development projects. In my time at the EDA, we brought $1 million a year from the IRRB for development projects. There still are active grants in place right now. $500,000 has been approved for the apartment project and $450,000 for the North Shore Waste project that they want to do. So that money will still keep coming to help us move forward. You know, those kinds of dollars we don't have here. We can't ask our locals for that kind of development money, right? So we should be able to continue on the budgetary path that we've been on all along.
So Mary, just so I understand, so the EDA, HRA kitties that you go to, those still go forward even if it is one added?
According to the state law, the EDA has a levy limit of there's a limit to how far they both can go, but we're not there yet with either one of those organizations. So there's one statute that describes the levy limit for EDAs all across the state, and another statute that describes the levy limit for HRAs all across the state, and both of those would still be available to us.
Okay.
And actually, currently, the HRA hasn't used any of its own levy capacity. The HRA last year, in 22 and 23, were funded just in the general fund. We didn't even tap into the levy specific to the HRA because at the recommendation of James Yorkie and the county board, wait until we're doing something, right? We're just getting rolling. So let the county support the administrative startup of the organization, and then we'll take it from there. So by next year, hopefully, we'll be able to look at those dollars.
Got it. Thank you.
Aaron, did you have any questions or thoughts?
No, you pretty much answered all my questions that I had. But I'd just say, my concern is with the housing and just that it might become a little less focused later on down the line. That's my only concern, really.
I should also say we have Jason here tonight, so if you have any questions, you
That
should
guy?
feel free to address them to him as well.
Back again? I'm just having a hard time seeing an upside to the housing, by doing this combined, I mean, if it's going well, and I just don't see how the EDA can benefit Jason's efforts to build houses. That's, that to me, it's not obvious to me.
I could see that maybe the EDA could fund part of the HRA to some extent, so it could offer more funds to the HRA and work vice versa. No? Okay.
One of the, yeah, no, I think the funding, again, each entity has its levy capacity.
Okay.
But I like that idea.
It's a great idea.
Oh, I had a thought and it went away. Oh, the bigger picture. So we have a unique situation, I think, in Cook County right now because Jason's here. And Jason has background in both housing and economic development from his time at the city of Duluth. So his learning curve is pretty flat. He's like on it, right? He started running on the day he got here, and he hasn't stopped. I believe that having done this work and worked with him for a year, you just juggle what comes, you set your path for the day, and sometimes you have to do a little reset, or the second person is assigned to hey, go do that over there because I'm doing this over here, whichever one it is. You juggle the balls in whoever has the best abilities to deal with it. I think we have an opportunity here with Jason to keep on, because he's not going to take his foot off the gas pedal of the housing. I know that. But with his background and his knowledge and his skill set, not only is this an opportunity for goodness to come for our housing development, but for overall economic development in the county as well. To take a broader picture, economic development is housing, jobs, and childcare. And then you increase the tax base and you maintain a superior quality of life for the residents. So all of those things are needed. We don't need anybody to help us create jobs. We have jobs that we need filled. And we need childcare for the workers who come to live in the houses that Jason's going to build. So, it's a lot, no doubt. Nobody is denying that it's a lot, for sure. But I think that it's just, I think we're up to the task.
So,
We don't know what we don't know, but.
I would suggest that as a one-person show, my doing the EDA work and Jason doing the HRA work, we're in separate tunnels, we do separate jobs, we are both having a lot on our plate. If these two organizations were combined and there was a single leader and a person underneath, there would be duplication, and I believe the work will get done faster. Because there's an ability then to say, Jason's going to do this, he needs these 5 pieces in order to make that happen, help him. Otherwise, he's doing those 5 pieces and something else. Same thing with the EDA. If I'm just the only person doing this job, and I've done it twice now, the same thing happens. I've got to juggle many, many things, and I have no one to give that job to. The person that's working with Jason could cover him when he gets a vacation, yay. Everything stops when he's gone. If there's somebody else in that organization, things can keep going. I can see from an administrative viewpoint better results. I really believe that. It's really tough to be the only person doing that job and trying to have a life and trying to do the rest of the things. So I just think that you have to think about the synergies between 2 people and the fact that I just believe things will get done faster.
Thanks, Pat.
But certainly your concerns are, you're not the first,
Right.
not the first
And
time.
I'm sure not. I mean,
And we
like, the
sometimes,
optics are like-
we think this ourselves from time to time, Ben.
Yeah, you have
Some
to.
days we wonder.
Yeah, because the reality is we have one person doing one job and doing it well, and now we're gonna take two people and give them 5 jobs, right? And so we are taking attention away, no matter how you wanna slice that up, we're taking attention away from housing. There's no other way to, in my estimation, to view that, but.
Well, if we wrote, I saw you leaning in, Mayor. I wonder if we wrote some language in the, whatever, agreement, in the whereas of the agreement that we're looking at, about, overall, everyone who is involved with this, everyone's intent is to keep housing the top priority.
And I believe
There's
that.
no way
And-
any of us living here in Cook County could raise our hand and say, never mind, we're not going to do that.
I believe you, yeah.
But practically speaking, right, yeah. What does that look like Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. when Jason's doing his work?
Do you guys have any questions for Jason? Do you want to hear from Jason?
If Jason wants to
Well,
say
what does the
something,
Jason want?
I don't know the Jason.
You should come to the, please,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
Turn the what's that?
Nameplate.
Oh, yes, I'm not,
Nameplate.
I'm sorry, I'm not a city council. Jason Hale, Executive Director of the HRA. So I think, as the chair has said and as Steve has said, the president, not my president yet, as he has said, I think that we recognize and have had the same concerns you're talking about with, and my job is housing right now, so that's my kind of blinder focus. But there are a couple things I think might be helpful to at least from my perspective, to share. How can we keep that focus without diminishing, without being too distracted by the other things that have to get done necessarily from the EDA, whether it's the golf course, pick the other things. And those are just the two things that have ongoing maintenance, so to speak, that decisions have to be made about, and that's where the board and the governor's board and all those things come into play. I can think of examples. So, for example, Lincoln Park in Duluth. I was the liaison for, when I had my EDA hat on, I was the liaison for the city for 4 years or something. So I met with all the small businesses, we created a program for acquiring and rehabbing buildings, and I was constantly with those folks at the kind of the genesis of that rebranding of the craft district and all of that. At the same time, I was able to understand, one, the business needs, and then two, the housing opportunities. So it's kind of funny because I think, housing has become such an economic development problem that my job at the city bled in from, I started as economic development and then I bled into housing because that was what we needed to happen. And all of that's to say that I have, at least in my experience, the looking at the development more universally has proven pretty helpful from a variety of perspectives, one of which is resources. Deed, you can access different resources. So I'll give an example, local one. Let's say Tack Harbor. Let's say there's something happens there. And I know that there are conversations about that. Let's just pretend. So this is pretend for the public. This isn't, there's no insider information here. I have no idea. But let's pretend the Minister of Power says, you know what, we want to dispose of the property. We're going to help remediate it. Okay, great. What's going to happen next? That's a process, but we get down that road. Well, there's probably some remediation funds. We can go to EPA Region 5, we can go to MPCA, we can do those things, and then we set the table for the next thing. And that's a big enough site where you say, well, what wants to live here? Looking at that a little more holistically, okay, it's not just going to be 300 units of housing or whatever can fit on 100 acres. That probably doesn't make sense. Is there a way to incorporate a larger master plan or vision for that site, for redevelopment of that site? That's just one kind of off-the-cuff example, just popping in my head. But the ability to look a little larger scale at those things, and yes, you can do that if you have two directors in two different agencies. But like Pat had said, whether you like it or not, we work in silos. Because by virtue of the fact,
we're in the same office, and the previous director and I were next to each other in the same office, and we didn't know what each other was doing. We know generally, but the day-to-day things and what resources we could go after. So there is some time saving, and frankly, better projects can happen when you're thinking a little more globally than just in your particular space. So if you think about a mixed-use building downtown with housing on top or something in a retail, so, well, where does that live? Is that a housing project? Is it a business development project? It's a little bit of both, and that's the whole point. So there's no silver bullet with merging, but again, having done both at the same time before, working for both agencies, you had basically a suite of resources that you could sort of approach, and you kind of plug and play. Hey, what does this want to be? Where can we go? That was really helpful. Now, to your question, Counselor, if the county and the city or whomever decides that this is not the right direction, as the chair said, I'm still going to run it housing. That's what my job is. If my job changes, I'm going to run it all the things, but the ability to delegate some of the things that are technically focusing on housing right now, a lot of, like, let's just say administrative stuff or divide and conquer, you go to this meeting so I can attend this one, that would save me time, for sure. And I believe that some degree of specialization is actually quite useful in this space. Otherwise, you have to know all things to all people in the industry you're working in. Being able to delegate some of that would, for me, be helpful. And it's not that person isn't capable of doing all of the things. There's nothing I won't do in my job because I'm the only one that have to do it. So, we have to do all the things from bottom up. But having someone else to say, hey, next week there's this and this, who wants to go to what? Or, hey, I'm going to be out, can you make sure you go to this meeting at council or whatever? There is some value to that, where right now that's just by virtue of the size, it's not an option. Of course, we could say, hey, down the road, what if we just had more staff or something, or hired another part-time person or something for the eat? I mean, that's been talked about. I'm not as keen on that, just because if you're not in it, you're not doing it. It's a little harder to keep abreast of what's going on a day-to-day basis. Not to mention, it's not just administrative assistance. That's not the goal here, as the chair had said. That's not going to solve anything. So having a full-time dedicated staff person to help with the projects, that's really where I think the help is. So anyway, that was a spiel.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any questions while I'm sitting up here? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Mayor, what do you think?
Yeah.
Well, I've
Been awfully
had-
quiet.
Well, I've had multiple meetings on this topic, including my very first EDA meeting was a request of Mary and Steve with Dave Mills to contemplate this with a very specific ask if the city and county would be willing to remove themselves as voting board members and become ex officio so they could figure out how to put a new board together should this transpire. So that was a quick learning curve for me. And I'd just gone through my onboarding stuff with Myron and read through all of that paperwork he handed me, and still had to meet with Mike and James Yorkie and whatever. Lots of thinking. And of course I said the first thing that all of you said as well, because in the real world you can't divide stuff. You can't say it's 85-15. Things don't happen just like today it's this and then tomorrow it can be that. They'll all collide at the same moment because Murphy's Law always lives. So I get it from the fact it would be nice to have two people who knew enough to do things, but to say that somehow we can say that housing will always be a priority, number one, well, I just don't know. To me, that's a risk that I don't think works really well. And, you know, reading your final presentation here, like when you use the verbiage of continued to partner with Superior National around with the governors for managing the golf course, it makes it sound like there's not much there for the EDA to do, but there is, because they have the ultimate responsibility for that golf course. And sure, there could be some people managing it, but the EDA has to know what in the heck's going on down there in the county and make some important decisions. So that's still, it was the original thing and it's still a huge and important part of the EDA. And I think TAC Harbor, and we've already had one meeting, thanks to Pat, about the potential of TAC Harbor. It is a huge project and it will be coming our way. And there's a lot of money, federal and state, to help us and it's over 2,000 acres, potential development. And for me, I go back to our childhood and I think of the core and who was there and what it meant. And as I mentioned to them, you can draw a circle. It's not just Cook County. We're looking into Lake County and communities over in that area that could benefit wherever that goes. It won't be just people living in this county. And the possibilities are pretty cool about what we could do with that and affect our area. So I think there's big things, and we've had other discussions, and we've been asked by other businesses, what can the city be doing about downtown businesses? And I look, well, maybe that's something the EDA should really be doing. So however you reorganize this, I just think there's a lot of work and a lot of potential that could be done. And maybe that just means more budgets and, more requests for more money, I don't know. But there's a lot there. And to me, the risks we're going to assume, which you guys have said, really today when you kick this off, is the whole reason we're having this conversation is because Jason is here. And I've always said the risk is, what if Jason isn't here? For whatever reason, of maybe none of his doings, he isn't here, would we still want this same solution? And if you're willing to accept that risk, then whatever. But I think that's a really valid risk. And then the other risk is all these other EDA issues, they can't be pushed aside. They may need time. And then the upcoming opportunities. So if people feel comfortable with all of that, and my only last question, which I'm still not really clear, we've talked about it in different meetings, and I don't feel it's really clear on page 4, the makeup of the board. That is my remaining question. Mm-hmm. It is my understanding that this board by state statute is limited to 7 members. Mm-hmm. So you give a proposed membership here, which lists more than 7 people.
No, I'm sorry, Stacy. The names are the current appointees,
Mm-hmm.
and then the last line says, in keeping with the statute, the county should appoint 4 and the city should appoint 3.
But appoint, when we're just taking, this is where maybe this is I have to make my question bigger. Okay. So it's my understanding, if this is the EDA and we're just folding the HRA under it, we haven't changed the EDA. That's not a new board and not a new organization. So we already have those members, other than I know the county has an opening. So are you suggesting then we're all of a sudden reappointing new board members out of this existing larger group?
We're not
We've had this
suggesting-
conversation, and I walked away really unclear, like Stacy brought it up in a
Yeah.
meeting. And I didn't know, and Chris, I don't know if you have a thought on that, where this would end.
Good evening.
I'm sorry, Chris Hood, our city attorney.
I do. I mean, I don't know that I can weigh in a lot here because I haven't been asked to be involved in this, and I haven't reviewed or analyzed it, and I haven't done the legal analysis associated with it. But in the discussion, I do have some legal questions about some of this, one of which is, Mayor, as you pointed out, there are statutory requirements here for EDAs, specifically on the term of office for appointed EDA members, which is 6 years, and the number of members on an EDA. And so unless you have terms expiring that coincide with this, where you would be, have the ability to appoint new members, or those people voluntarily resign, you're going to have vacancies, if you want different members on that board, or voluntary resignations.
Mm-hmm.
Because a 6-year term means a 6-year term. They are entitled to serve that 6-year term, and they can't be removed from office except for neglect of duty. I mean, it's a 4-cause standard for removal. So again, I don't know anything about what has transpired here or what the discussions have been, but that's one question that I had related to this. The other question that I had related to this was, I'm assuming that you're working with the county attorney's office related to the legalities and logistics associated with dissolution of the HRA and what happens with the HRA assets, not the least of which is the property that the city sold to the HRA, I mean, not long ago.
Right.
And so, you know, it seems that all of those issues need to be dealt with. I can only assume that you have had those discussions and are more than aware of that, I'm sure. But I do definitely think that, you know, you mentioned that the EDA, which is the remaining entity, would be able to utilize both the EDA, and maybe I didn't understand this, the EDA levy as well as the HRA levy. Is there statutory authority that says the EDA, because an EDA can only do what Chapter 469 says they can do. They can't do anything else. So if it isn't in that statute, it can't do it.
Yes,
And,
thank
and
you.
so is there legal authority that says an EDA can utilize the HRA levy?
This EDA can, because it was created by special legislation, which includes that language that gives it the
Okay.
authority to do that.
Like I said, to start out this, I haven't done the analysis on this. So
Yeah.
I don't know. And so as you're talking, I have questions that come to mind based on my knowledge of things. But if you've got special legislation that allows you to do that, then you're good.
Yep, look up 1998, Chapter 516. Special legislation.
The city's not paying me to do it.
Oh, the
but
city,
I would
yeah.
be doing that, yes.
Never mind.
Disregard that, Chris.
I just stepped across the line there.
So
Sorry.
unusual, Mary, so
Yeah.
unusual. Never seen it before.
So
Let's just
to
get
conclude,
this
So
going.
to the mayor's comment, though, I do think that, you know, again, the membership on the board, that's an issue that obviously that statute has to be complied with. And Mary, you just said that, you know, you all are going to be complying with that statute.
Yep, yes, and so, Tracy, in response to your question, Madam Mayor, we made a suggestion about a month ago just to throw something on the table, and now we've taken that off the table. And now we're saying the board member appointments are strictly going to follow the statute, 4 by the county, 3 by the city. Yes, Chris, in response to your question, there is one board term that is vacant, or one seat that's vacant on the EDA right now, and another board member that is nearly done or will be done sooner than later. You can speak to
Yeah, we
that.
have one board member that terms out at the end of the year here and is willing to depart early.
And so, you know, we're totally stepping away from making any suggestions about who should be on the board or how that should be done. That's in the hands of the elected officials that were elected to do that job. We're back on the other side of the line on that deal. So,
Thanks for clarifying
if that helps.
Yeah, because I wasn't quite getting it when I was reading it.
And I mean, I think the only other thing I would add is between the folks that are serving on the EDA board and the HRA board right now, we've got a bunch of really smart people that are willing to serve and willing to do the work. And so, you know, whatever seats are available, those folks have said that they're willing to continue to do the work and continue to show up and help move things along. But ultimately, it's up to the city and the county.
Yeah.
Right.
And another kind of long-term that I have benefit is, you know, in my time at the EDA, we had a hard time finding people to fill the seats on the EDA board for a while. And I think, you know, we kind of turned the ship and it began to be more interesting to people. And now a lot of, as Steve said, committed leaders, hardworking board members, you know, they've got a great group of people on the board now, but you know, you can't always find people to fill the seats that you need to fill. So that's another, you know, and currently the HRA board members are all appointed by the county, and the city doesn't have a say in who's on that board. So bringing it together really brings the city maybe more into the fold, into the overarching governance, because you have you can appoint 3 board members. So it's a lot of wondering. There's risk, of course, either way. every day when we get out of bed, there's a risk. So we don't know all the answers. We just have studied it for a while, and for a lot of reasons we think it's a good idea. But not without concerns and questions every day, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, and just really quickly for everyone's benefit, could you just tell us the status of the county with this? I know you did your presentation with them at the end of March.
Yep.
And just where are they at in the process, just so everyone knows?
Yeah, so we went before the committee of the whole and presented to them, and they gave us a series of questions and things that they wanted us to work on specifically around the budget was primarily what it was, and so we've done that work, and so
The
we'll-
budget and the board members.
Yep, and the board members, and so we'll go back and re-present to them.
We wanted to visit with council first and learn if there was anything in particular that we could say or do or think about to help with your concerns and questions before we went back there.
Sure.
So that
Yeah.
we can carry that with us and put that into our next version of the.
It just keeps getting better.
Yeah, it does. It helps us do our work better when you tell us these things.
For sure.
So.
Yeah.
All right, so do you know when you're going in front of the county again?
No.
Okay, because it's not calendared or whatever?
We haven't asked for time on the agenda. We were focused on today. And
Okay,
after
all right.
today, we'll
Curious.
think what to do next.
Timelines, whatever. So, okay.
Well, what is this? April, where
Twelve.
are we?
12.
James told me that with a week's notice, he can get us on an agenda. So we could go back to the county before the end of the month. We've been talking about this, at least started casually in January. We've spent a lot of time in February and March, and pretty soon we all need to know what we're going to do and go forward one way or the other, because
Yeah.
it's time to wrap it up and decide.
Yeah.
So.
And just looking at calendars, so our next meeting runs on the 26th of April, exactly 2 weeks. Sometimes that varies, but it happens to be 2 weeks this
Probably be
time.
the first week then in May, or the
So-
first meeting in May.
So I didn't know how that would fall against the county. See what they do.
So in my way of thinking, and I'm not 100% sure, but I believe if an action is to be taken, the first action needs to be taken by the county, because the county created the HRA, so they would need to approve the merger and the dissolution of the HRA. And then the city would need to also, because the city, I don't remember the word, the city delegated the housing authority to the
Authority to,
HRA,
yeah.
so then the city would have to redelegate it then to the EDA in the steps of the process, if it goes that way, if it goes.
Okay.
So, I think that's our next thing would be to go back to the county and again, we don't know, where the county, if we don't know if we've answered all the questions and addressed all the concerns.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
we don't know if we'll be back here or not. But soon we will all know, because spring is coming and construction season is coming, and we're hoping to get some shovels in the ground and lots
Yeah.
of stuff going on, so.
Good. So anything else, or?
No, thank you. I mean, yeah, I don't want it to come off as though that I'm sounding like I don't appreciate the work that you guys do at the EDA as well, and all of that. I just want to just be careful. That's ultimately, we've had, like I talked to Jason many times, and we've had admirers of the housing problem for 50 years. Right, and we finally have somebody that's willing to do something about it, and we seem like we have momentum, and we don't need any more admiring.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well put. I like that.
Believe
for your
me,
time.
there's no admiration of the problem.
Yeah, thanks, Steve, thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Leash ordinances, there's a switch.
The leashes.
Since this is, so Mike basically redid on our one concern about trying to define what it would mean to be training your animal. And I liked Anchorage's very simple sentences to say what it isn't, but apparently that didn't work really well, so.
Yeah, I did like, I don't know, I felt pretty, just reading it back over again, I thought, yeah, I think this is, I don't know, I feel like this is working. What did you guys think? Felt like it got, enough of the freedoms that we want people to have with their dogs, and yet still you can't have an unmanaged animal running around.
Can we do that with that skunk that was around town? Aaron, any thoughts about the revised?
Yeah, I like it a lot better.
Yeah.
That's really the only thought I had about it, was that I thought it was a lot better. But the concerns that I've talked to people about it, and they're just more concerned about. They like the idea of, at least everyone I've talked to so far about it, of being able to have their pets off leash on their property, or and then they like. But at the dog park and whatnot, they're just worried about the restraint anywhere else, So.
Okay. Any comment about being able to go play fetch with your dog in the lake?
They did like that.
I kind of feel like that's the relief valve there. It's like, okay, just go down there.
Just go down there.
You can find it. We all know where you are.
Yep.
It's fine.
But they still had concerns about that too. It's just, well, what if? But
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Ben,
Yeah, it's good.
you're okay with it? All right.
Can we motion this thing, or are we not there yet?
No, not yet, right?
is just a-
Chris, he's gonna do a final what over, and then we'll have something back, I think, to approve. This is just to make sure we're
We're just in
finally okay with
agreement?
it.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering if it was movable.
Yeah, not this.
Oh,
one.
you have an ordinance in front of you. I think that's the
Oh.
revised version.
You're
Okay.
right, we did. I wasn't sure,
That's what
so we would be okay. I wasn't sure if he still just wanted us to, we could go ahead.
You know, I didn't talk to Mike about it. He had put this together, but, I read through it quick here, and, it looks to be in order, unless you've got additional language changes that you want to make to it, but otherwise, I think you could give it first reading, and if there are problems with it, I guess, or if Mike comes back and he says, Chris, what the heck were you doing? We could fix it on second reading as well.
Okay, well, that'd be good, because that'd
So
kind
then we
of
need a
get things
motion and a
rolling.
reading.
Yes,
Right.
we do.
So I will make the motion to adopt ordinance 2023-03, animal leash revisions.
Anyone to second that?
Second.
Any additional comments at all? No? Alrighty, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, with that is ready. Reading number one. Very good.
Reading
Thanks,
number one.
Chris.
Yay. Thank you, Chris.
thank you, Chris.
All right, and with that, we're down to council reports. Ooh, that was a big sigh.
No.
What?
No.
What about the Y and our log rollers?
We haven't met yet.
Did
Again.
you hear anything?
I haven't
Okay.
heard anything.
I was just wondering if it would be worth our while to just have a conversation with Jim McGowan for just some general guidance about how we can work with that organization.
Yeah.
And then I wonder too, has anybody asked, that the gentleman from the other Y who wrote that second letter in, has anyone contacted him to see how they got that all going in these other Ys? If they had to be the same issues, if it's insurance or whatever, and how are they making it workable there?
Yeah, and I'm not remembering, which letter was that?
Ooh, Mike was supposed to have, I got it, Mike was supposed to have forwarded it to you.
And I might have read
I'll
it,
make
but I
sure.
read a lot of things.
Well, I know. So we'll.
Okay, you
we'll
can re-forward
ref-
it to me, or
yeah,
I'll look tonight
we'll-
as well,
and
before I
just
talk to
see.
Jim.
I have a question on the YMCA since you're on the
Oh, sure.
board. Can you ask if their summer hours are gonna be different than their winter hours? Are they gonna be open on weekends at all this summer? spring?
I mean, I could ask, but that's.
Is there a plan?
that's-
They're open
that's not a-
Saturdays, limited.
One.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose it's staffing.
I know I know that they're wanting to get back to what they were doing before. They're just having to build staff and train staff and keep building.
Yeah.
They've hired a couple of new people
It's
that
possible.
are, helping to lift that weight, so it does look like they are
Moving that direction.
moving in that direction, but I
Okay.
couldn't say.
They have
Yeah.
a lifeguard training again the first full weekend in May. Anyone wants to become a lifeguard?
I've
What
already
about
gone
you?
through that.
Huh?
What about you?
I contemplated it.
Really?
Yeah.
Is the time limit?
Yeah, of course I do.
Between meetings? Just
Yeah.
throw that in.
Anyways, I'm sure, it is staffing pretty much, right? There's not
Yeah,
for
it's
shortage
like-
of people in there.
No, and they found some really interesting ways of paying people too, about adding in extra dollars to pay people, like, I don't know, they asked my daughter to come back and they're gonna pay her like $22 an hour or something like that, which I thought, but to me, that sounds like good money, so I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah, and you get
Wow.
good benefits, so,
So,
yeah, pretty cool. All right. I have no council report. Oh!
oh my gosh.
Me neither. I'm meeting the North House tomorrow,
Ooh,
so that'll be fun.
anything new on?
I'll let you know next meeting. I don't-
Nothing new ahead of time? Didn't give you a prequel?
Yeah, but it's in my truck.
Darn it.
All right, you're up.
Okay. I met with Arrowhead Animal Rescue. We talked more about fundraising, and
Yay.
we got more into specifics about what we were going to be doing. And we talked about what the city wanted from them. And that was pretty much it. I do have a meeting with Active Living and Steering Committee tomorrow, but
Great.
Very good.
Fun.
Well, I guess that is it. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
And good night.
We are adjourned.
Thank you, have a good night.
Thanks,
Yes,
Chris.
Chris. Good night, Kim.
Good night, Kim.